I think I'm just gonna start because there's a lot of pressure on me. We don't have enough time. So, okay. So before I start, I'll request, since we have a limited time, if you have any questions, just hold it. Please hold it for by the end of the presentation. If you don't get time, just I'll be here. Just, talk to me in person if you have any questions. I'll try my best to help you out. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Before I begin, I'm just gonna do a quick introduction. I did a workshop yesterday. For those of you who didn't get to attend my workshop, my name is Lavish Kumar. I'm a software developer from New York, United States. I'm a founder of an online community called Striving Programmers, and it's the online community that offers articles, forums, and how-to tutorials on different applications, CMS, and Striving Programmers is also a great resource for nopCommerce. We offer more than 100 how-to tutorials on nopCommerce for development and store owners, so when you get a chance, please check it out. I'm sure it'll be helpful to you. And here's the agenda. Basically, I'll be talking about some common e-commerce pitfalls and how to avoid them, some tips for store owners, and some unique marketing practices and trends that are going. I work with a lot of e-commerce stores and business owners, and things that I found that are in the trend right now, what's working for different businesses. I'll be talking about that. I'll try my best to wrap everything up quickly because of limited time. If I'm going too fast, stop me. Let me know. Okay. I know majority of people here are developers, but somehow everybody is related to e-commerce. And we all know that today, launching an e-commerce site for any store owner is really easy. You can launch a site with very limited budget and within a very limited time. In fact, if you're using a solution like nopCommerce, you can launch your site within a few minutes. In fact, you can have your site up and running, of course, as long as you have all the credentials and everything. But so launching a store site for any store owner is always a big moment. But in some cases, that big moment can end up with intense frustration when sales are not meeting expectations. In some cases, business owners basically are very frustrated because they might be in the right industry. They might have a great product, great business plan, but they still don't know what's going on, why sales are not meeting the expectations. So in those cases, sometimes some store owners overlook that the problem might be in their website. And that's what exactly I'll be focusing on today, the pitfalls. So the first thing is complicated or having some store owners have a non-user-friendly website. The web design industry is changing all the time, and trends are, everything is moving at a very fast pace. So sometimes it's hard to keep up with all the trends, but it's really important because if you don't keep up with all the trends, you'll basically end up with a non-user-friendly website. People don't know what to do when they land on your homepage, and a cluttered and complicated website is going to drive away your customers from your store site. And because nobody wants to buy on a clunky website. So the first thing you can do to improve is keep things simple and clean. Some store owners just want to display everything. A lot of times I've seen that the tendency of a lot of store owners is that they want to display all the buttons, advertisement, everything on the home page or any other. They want to advertise all their products and services. But sometimes that actually makes your web pages look a bit heavy, and it's kind of act as a very distracting thing when somebody's placing order on your site. So, when you are dealing with the design of your structure or layout of your store site, it's really important to maintain a good right proportion between the graphics as well as the white spacing. When you have a right proportion, the customers can actually concentrate on the content of the website, so they don't feel distracted. So, because too many ads, banners, basically can make your pages look a bit heavy, and it's just that nothing will drive away your customers then unnecessary forms, advertisement, buttons. So it's always a good idea to keep things simple. And second thing is, don't try to sell too much. It may seem like offering a widest range of product and services is the way to go these days, but in reality, it's not, because narrowing it down to less items and product actually helps you to target specific groups, and it helps you in marketing your products and services more effectively. Because in e-commerce business, there are two realities that I'm sure everybody will agree with me in that you can't please everyone. No matter how many services and products you offer, you just can't please everyone, and it's in human nature that we all like specific solutions. To give you an example on that is, let's say if you're planning to go out for dinner, and let's say you really want Chinese food. So would you rather go to a restaurant where you can get a variety of food from different cultures, or would you rather go to a Chinese restaurant? You might like the food that a restaurant is offering for a different culture, but in some cases you might prefer to go to a Chinese restaurant because you really want Chinese food. And you know that when you're going to that Chinese restaurant, what you're getting is the best food because they specialize in that food. The same thing with the online store. When you try to do everything, you just can't please everyone. So you have to choose your industry, and you have to target some groups in which so that you can market your store better. So this way, when people are buying from you, they know that you specialize in that industry. You're not just trying to be like a little bit of everything, because people will like you better because they can depend on your specialized advice if you're dealing with a specific industry in e-commerce business. So third thing is loading time is a major contributor when it comes to the user experience of your site. It's really important to make sure, pay attention that web pages on your site are loading at faster rate, and it's not taking, because if it's taking like minutes to load, nobody's going to stick on your store site. They're just going to go to a different website and buy their products, what they're looking for. Because average consumers are really impatient. You have to understand that why they are online buying from a store site. Because it's convenient. If they want to wait, they can actually go to a store and buy the product. The reason they are on your store site because they don't want to wait in the line. They don't want to travel. They just want their product right away. So they're really impatient. So next thing in e-commerce pitfalls is basically when you don't have enough CTAs. So CTA is something that stands for call to action, which means a button or a link that actually asks your customer to engage with the website. Have you seen buttons like subscribe now, learn now, download now? Those are CTAs basically. And the more you have, the more effectively you use your CTAs. It makes your site better and more user friendly. Because there are some websites that require like specific ways to place an order. CTAs actually guide them how to navigate the website, because when you're designing your website, when you're building your store site, as a store owner, you know your business, but you can't expect from the customer that they are aware how to use your site. So by effective CTAs, basically you have to guide them how to use your site, how to take them to the right place so that they can order quickly. So CTAs basically can be download now, subscribe now, click here, something like that. And CTAs are also used to basically transform online potential customers to leads. So when it comes to CTA, you have to use the action-oriented language. You have to be clear. By clear I mean, sometimes we have seen advertisement on sites. They say download this ebook right now. You really need that ebook, let's say. But when you click on download now, the big form comes out. You have to fill out all the information. That's not that's a vague information, because you're not getting, because that website is not delivering you because they asked you to click on that button, but they didn't deliver right away. There's a whole form. Basically, people, when they see that there's unnecessary forms they have to fill out the information, they leave your site. So you have to make sure if you're asking your customer to do something, click on a button, you make sure that you deliver that also. That actually makes your site more user-friendly. And you have to use your CTAs effectively. Make sure that those CTAs are eye-catching, it's catching customers' attention. To give you an example of an effective CTA, I'm just going to show you some example. I'm sure many of you have seen Dropbox website. Their website's always been very plain and simple. There's a lot of white spacing here, but an effective CTA is the sign up for free button. That's a really good way to use CTA, because when you land on their website, all you can see is one button. And if you pay attention to the reason what makes it effective CTA, the color of the button matches their logo color. So when you see that button, you relate that CTA with their logo. So these are the only two things that you remember when you leave that site. And second example is Netflix. I'm sure you all know that what Netflix is basically a subscription-based service, and they're using their verbiage really effectively, because whenever you're dealing with a service that is subscription-based, the first thing a lot of people are concerned about is it a contract? They have to sign a contract. So they mention this very clearly on their homepage that you can cancel anytime. And again, Netflix is also doing the same thing, just like Dropbox. The CTA is joined for free. That button, the color code of that button, is the same as their logo. So they basically relate that, so these two catches attention for customers. So the third pitfall is basically complex checkout process. It's I'm just going to share one video with you, so I think it'll be helpful to understand. Oh, sorry. All right, well, I have to. I'm just going to put my phone. Just give me a second, I just want you to hear that. Not sure why it's something. Let me try. Okay, well, I'm just going to play for you so you can just see what's going on here. I'm sorry for the audio. So basically just customer who's trying to check out from the store. And I'm just going to be translating everything. So when he's checking out, the person on the register is asking for a username and password. It's just like a checkout process. And now he's just like, when you check out, you have to agree with the terms, and he's actually reading the whole book. Terms and conditions when he's checking out. And what happened is he went because the session expired, because he waited too long on the shopping cart page. Now he's asking for username and password again to log in. Now capture it. All right, so he's saying that you can't take the site because you need to pay for the shipping. And he's saying this is the slow shipping, but you can pick up your loaf of bread after 5 days, because ground shipping takes 5 days. And he's saying that I want right now. He's saying you can do express shipping. And customer is getting frustrated because the complex checkout process, and eventually customer leaves the store site. So it's actually a video by Google. They did for Google Analytics to show, you should keep an eye on how the activity of customers on the checkout page. But I thought it actually relates to what I'm going to talk about, that how complex checkout process affect your customers. So complex checkout process basically in e-commerce business. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the term called shopping cart abandonment, and it's quite frustrating for many store owners to see that customers are getting to the final line of placing an order, and basically something happens and they leave the site, and it's really frustrating for many store owners to see that why customers are not buying from their site. So you can see that how complex checkout process can actually lead to shopping cart abandonment, and customer basically just leave the site and they're just going to go to your competitor and buy the product who is offering a better checkout process. So when it comes to checkout process, you have to make sure that your checkout process is speedy and your one-page checkout process. The term one-page conveys a simple but really important meaning to your audience, because it says that it's simple and easy. It's just one form they have to fill out when they're checking out from the store site. nopCommerce does offer one-page checkout process, but technically it's not true one-page, because you still have to go through, in next step you have to enter your shipping address. There are some plugins that actually can make it true one-page checkout process. I think Templates offer one plugin, and some other solution providers is offering that too. But so when it comes to checkout process, you have to make sure that you offer one-page checkout process, and you can actually advertise this to to tell your customers that it's easy to check out from your store. Just take an example of when you go to a grocery store. We tend to try to go to like speedy checkouts, and register rate is like only few people, not like because we don't want to wait for long lines. Checkout process is exactly the same thing. You don't want to wait because, like I mentioned before, online customers are really impatient. They just want their product right away. So you have to make it easier for your customers to place order from the store site. And when it comes to checkout process, another thing that is quite common, and you should be offering that, is guest checkout. Guest checkout is because a lot of websites force their online shoppers to register on their site. I know it's really important for you as a store owner to collect customer information, but at the same time, it's actually act as an obstacle in placing an order. It's another step that customer has to go through in order to get that item. What if they're just buying a battery from you, or some like really small thing? They don't want to do all those extra steps that just to place an order for a simple item. So you should always make sure that you offer guest checkout process, and nopCommerce does support guest checkout process, and it makes your checkout process much more user friendly, and because it's just one way to make sure that your checkout process is not very complex and customers can easily place order on your site. Because you also remember that if you make things easier on your site for your customers, eventually if they become regular customers, they're going to register with your site anyway. So why you're forcing them first time when they're placing order on your site. Eventually, if they want to keep a track of their order, they will eventually come back to your site and register, because your site will be user friendly if you do all these things. So
I believe that registration and checkout is just the password.
Yes. But it's just sometimes extra thing that they have to, just like one, when you're checking out from your site, it's the same amount of information that you're filling out, but it just is, you're displaying everything in one page opposed to different, so it's the same amount of, customer is doing the same amount of work. It's just the way you display that information or ask information from a customer. So it's just an extra step that people sometimes don't like it, because it also depends on what you're selling for. If you are dealing with digital products or anything, you don't need shipping address or anything. You can have a one-page checkout process. You can, you just need billing information. That's pretty much it, to charge the customer. So it totally depends on what kind of business you're doing. I think some businesses require shipping addresses, so they need that. Some businesses are dealing with warehouses. They have to provide that information. You can't get away from those things depending on your business. So, but again, it's all about you have to make sure that these number of steps are minimum. Even if it's a matter of one extra step or one less step, it's actually going to make your site more user friendly. So I'm just gonna go over a few tips for store owners that I've seen while working with like marketing teams and different e-commerce stores, that what are useful when you're marketing your products and services, or even if you're sharing your products and services on social media sites, or if you write a blog about your products, make sure to use powerful headlines for marketing, because headlines are basically attention grabbers. And when it comes to the whole checkout process, when placing an order, getting a customer, that's the first step in completing the sale. If you cannot catch your customer's attention with your headline, basically you lost the sale. So that's the first step in getting a customer to read your content, to click on the product page, or to anything that you have to offer to your customers. And when you're dealing with headlines, it's always good practice to support headlines with numbers, because using numbers in your headline is one of the best ways to get noticed and increase the click-through rate on your headlines. Because a lot of research has confirmed that readers are much likelier to click on headlines with numbers opposed to just plain text. I'm just going to show you an example here. There's a headline. Let's say you're reading an article that why consumers prefer Apple iPhone over an Android. You might be interested to know like why. What's the reason? But if you see this headline, 5 reasons why 85% of consumers prefer Apple iPhone over an Android, you might prefer to click on the second headline opposed to the first one. The reason is basically because in this headlines, I'm supporting my headline with the number. At the same time, I'm actually giving some data from my content. So customer, you might be talking about the same information in that article too, but customers don't know that, and they have to click and they have to read the whole article or blog, or they have to go through your product page to find that information. But here they're getting a content, so it's like actually like the benefit they're getting. You might want to just read the highlights of it. Just these kind of headlines, when you support with numbers, get a better click-through rate when you're dealing with headlines. So it's one way to market your products and services. Second thing is you can use question-driven headlines. When you ask questions in your headline, it actually generates some curiosity in customers or readers' mind. And because let's say if you're writing blogs and articles for your products and services, and when you expect that readers will read your articles and blog, because you have to understand why they will read, because the reason they will read because they want answers online about anything they are looking for. So I'm just going to show you an example, might make it more clear. First headline is "Do not struggle to get followers on your Instagram." But the second headline, it's like a question based. So basically, when readers read these kind of headlines, they tend to click on the question based because they think that these headline actually is going to answer their question. Opposed to the headline is really vague. It might have the same content, but it gives more credibility to the second headline because it's a question based. It actually generates more curiosity in the customer's mind. So, am I going too fast? Okay. Thank you. All right. So, when it comes to a trend, I thought this is one of the things that a lot of people don't talk about, or developers. Anybody who knows what web accessibility is? Anyone? Can you raise your hand? Okay. And how many do you offer accessible website?
We use the Chrome plugin.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So, what is web accessibility? So, web accessibility basically means that people with disabilities can actually perceive, understand, navigate, and interact with your website. And a lot of times, majority of websites these days are not accessible, which is kind of unfortunate, but that's actually a growing trend. And so I thought that it'll be useful for many of you if you're dealing with, even if you're providing a solution to your customers, if you have an online store, you can consider this to implement on your store. If you are providing solution to different customers or store owners, you can actually consider adding the service to your service page that you provide web accessibility. So I'm just going to go some detailed. Let's say if majority, I'm assuming majority of you don't have accessible website. So you might think that why we want to spend money or time on making your site accessible. Your website might be working totally fine. Why you need it? So have you heard about excessive technology? Anybody? Can I have can you please explain?
You can make voice commands to get some actions on the website.
Okay.
That's
okay.
one.
Okay. Yes.
For example, having a yellow background and white text
Mm-hmm.
is not considered accessible for people to read.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know how, but some blind people manage to buy different stuff on our website. And I guess we do something right with the text we does stuff
Okay.
like that.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for. So I'm just going to explain what I got is somewhat correct, but I'm just going to explain with an example also. But assistive technology is basically when products or equipment a system that enhances your learning, working with daily living for a person with disabilities. A common example of assistive technology is actually eyeglasses. If in case you were surprised, like why is it? Because some people are, I'm sure like some people are wearing actually eyeglasses. The reason it makes eyeglasses assistive technology, example of assistive technology, is because long and short sightedness is actually makes you not capable of looking at the world like others do. So it's basically enhancing your daily activity, and you're able to look at the world just like other people who don't wear glasses. So that's what it makes it example of assistive technology. Let's say you're not able to walk. Let's say there's a disability or something. In that case, another example is remote control of your TV. That actually is enhancing. You don't have to get up or something. It's actually another example of assistive technology. It enhances the capability to do something that matches with the regular person with not any disability. Another common example of web accessibility, if anybody's developer here will know that we use all text in images. That's actually an example of web accessibility, because the reason we use all text is when images are not displayed in your email or web page, basically all text is displayed. So that actually makes it a good example of web accessibility, because a lot of people, some people who can't see clearly, they have some disability regarding vision, they use screen readers. In that cases, these all text is important, because screen reader software actually reads these texts, so they can interact with your site. If you don't provide all text in your images, they cannot interact with your site. So it's always good to add all text. So I'm just gonna talk about in cases when it's useful to use. When people who are blind, who cannot see what's on the screen, so they are dependent on screen readers application. We deal with mailings, email mailboxes like Outlook, Yahoo. They block the images when we send a newsletter to our customers. So all text actually can still be available in your email content, and you don't have to worry about like if somebody don't want to click on show images in the email button. In those cases, all text is always important. People in rural areas, they might not have a high-speed internet or anything, or they might be using, somebody might not have an unlimited data plan on their phone. So they usually don't want to load images on their phone also, or anywhere because loading takes time. Obviously it's gonna download some more content, so they don't want to do it. So you can actually, if you have all text mentioned in your emails, you can still interact, you can read what the content is about. So that's going to help. And actually, it's also helpful in search engine optimization. Search engines actually also read all text from your website. So that's why when you search for images and you go to Google and images, sometimes your website images show up because they're reading the alt text also. So, because why a website is needed is because even if you don't agree that your website need accessibility, you have to agree with the fact that people with disabilities also use web. When we're talking about anybody with disability, we have to there's only a few examples, like auditory. Basically, they need the captions if you have, let's say, a video on your website. If somebody cannot hear anything, they cannot interact with your content. So you need to provide captions on your content. For people who are have these kind of disabilities, cognitive, neurological, it's basically what happens is that they can actually get fixed or something. It can trigger a lot of things if there's a lot of scrolling going on your website. So that's why you need to provide options for navigation. I'm sure a lot of people now these days know that when you click on the address bar, when you press the tab button, it actually goes to different options. So that's actually one way to make sure that your website is accessible. It's just like a 3-step process. You can just click on the address bar, see everything is being highlighted, and in the development actually you can use in focus. Anything is actually gets focused, it should be highlighted, so that if somebody can't use mouse or anything, you have to make sure your site is accessible and can be used by keyboard only. That actually makes your site accessible. Another thing is visual. Somebody can't see anything. In order to make your site accessible, you have to provide options that they can increase. I remember I was in school and one of my professors couldn't see anything clearly on the screen, so he used to use the software that actually used to increase the font on the screen. So these kind of options you have to provide. If you're in nopCommerce, if you're using a theme, you can actually look into adding an option on the side. Scroll bar, that's it. Increase font, decrease font. Somebody can actually interact with that. Or make sure that it works with the keyboard, so somebody don't even have to click on that option. I'm just going to give you an example of if you have a little hard time understanding how it is to use a website for anybody who has a disability. Just like we were talking about eyeglasses. Just think of example like what if website is were not compatible with for someone who is wearing eyeglasses. How you would feel that you can't use a site if you have those are not compatible. So just like that, I'm just going to give you an example. We go to a lot of websites and we see a lot of advertisements sometimes. Or click on this button to claim this offer or something like that. We have seen those sometimes. Spam advertisement or anything, but let's say you are creating a campaign where you want somebody to click on the button. So this is just an example I made. That press the green button to claim the offer and blue button to cancel on the site. So if somebody don't have color blindness, will see these exactly how you are showing it to that customer. But if somebody had color blindness, they will see this. They cannot interact with your content because you didn't provide. You're depending on colors which are not accessible. When you're dealing with accessibility, you have to have guidelines. You have to make sure that the colors that you use on your site actually are accessible. The color blindness is one of the things that you have to make sure that people can actually interact with your site irrespective of their disability. So why there's need to go extra mile when it comes to it. Again, like I said before, your website might be working totally fine. You're getting sales, everything is working great. Again, why do you need accessibility? Because just like we discussed that, you can't deny the fact that there are people with disability who interact with the website. And based on statistics, you can go on a website. It's called w3.org. Basically, it's a site by a World Wide Web organization that gives a lot of information about how to make your site accessible. If you're looking into something that you want to consider this option, you can go on their website and see what the guidelines are. And so, according to them, there are 8.5 population in the world that actually use internet and who have disability. So it might not seem like a lot of sales for you. Like, if you're looking into like, oh, it's only 8.5%. It's not going to make a big difference. But in web design industry, there are a lot of companies when you're, if you're a solution provider, you're dealing with company. Sometimes company have a lot of policies that developers have to make site compatible with different browsers, even older browsers also. Internet Explorer 8 is really like basically retired. Still companies sometimes want to make their site compatible with different browsers, and it's a pain because I know, being a developer, I know sometimes it's a pain to make your content compatible with all the browser because the trends are changing all the time. There are always new browsers, new standards. You have to make sure that information is displayed. So when you spend so much time on making your site compatible with different browsers, why not do the same for web accessibility? And it requires much less work. When web designers do so much work, you have to work with styles and everything and different web standards or different browsers to make it's a lot more work than making your site accessible. You might be thinking that it's an extra thing that I have to pay to my designer to make your site make accessible. But the thing is, if you're thinking like that, it actually also opens up the additional percentage of people who will be able to interact with the site. But that also means additional sales. So what you're investing in your site is actually you're getting back to eventually. So yeah, that's it. All right. I guess I was quick. So, I don't know. I'm sorry if I was too fast.